Rick looked down at the wounded Elg soldier, blood and sweat covering his green scales. Rick knelt by Drages, whose breath was weak. From his pack, he grabbed a small, blinking silver translator. "Listen," Rick spoke firmly. Strange clicks and hisses came out, translated for the Elri. "Others will come and burn us all. We need to move together or we die." Doctor's eyes narrowed with a deep, angry rumble full of pain. He didn't trust the human. He tried to shift but winced, hurt by his damaged arm. Rick efficiently ripped open a medkit. He cleaned Doctor's wounds, wrapped them tight, and splinted the mangled limb. Doctors hissed against the pain but let Rick work. Rick's transponder beeped on his belt, sending signals to all. His fingers brushed it as he moved, time threatening them. Grunting, Rick helped Doctor stand. The armor made him heavy, but Rick steadied him with an arm. They entered the towering forest. Roots snaked below. Rick watched for traps. Doctor glanced at the human who'd saved him. Each careful step earned more respect. A shriek came, the predators always near. Rick listened, then chose a path with ferns and firm ground. Doctor limped after him, leaning heavily despite his pride. Each step risked death, but Rick moved with purpose, beyond fear or training. Human strength emerged, not in dexterity but in resolve. Fight when to fight, heal when to heal. Rick gripped his rifle tighter as the shadows shifted. The ancient trees towered over them, full of unseen danger. Every step he could feel eyes watching, hungry for the kill. Beside him, Doctor dragged his wounded leg but kept both hands on his gun. Low snarls echoed through the brush. The vortex beasts blended into the forest, silent hunters until their jaws closed around your throat. Doctor turned, sweat and blood glistening on his scales. They put their backs together. "We make our stand here," Rick said, voice steady but firm. Doctor roared a primal call of defiance. The sound stirred Rick's courage. The forest erupted with savage growls as the beasts circled closer. One leapt from the brush at Doctor. The warrior slammed it against a tree with his tail. It crashed down lifeless. Rick's rifle barked, and more beasts fell. He scanned for any shimmer of their camouflage, trusting Doctor to guide his shots. Each pull of the trigger meant one less beast left to hunt them. Engines roared overhead as shuttles streaked by. Time was running out. His C-link snapped, urgent orders inbound for evac. Coordinates sent, be there. Doctor limped heavily beside him, each breath labored. The fighting had taken its toll. "Can't move fast enough," Doctor grunted. Without hesitation, Rick shouldered his rifle and bent down. "Get on." "I've got you." Doctor's weight bore down hard. Each step was agony, but Rick refused to fail. He plowed ahead through the ferns. The beasts' cries promised they'd be back, lured by the scent of blood. The beacon blinked ahead hope and challenge both. Rick steadied his breath and pressed forward. Each second, each meter brought them closer to safety or closer to being hunted again. Flares burst in the black night, their glow cutting through the dark. Rick slammed the distress signal into the dirt. He fumbled with the striker. Sparks flared bright against the darkness until the signal caught fire, the blaze reaching for the sky. It was a beacon in the black, a cry for help. Engines roared as the human shuttle punched through the atmosphere. It came down fast, streaks of enemy lasers surrounding it. The LG knew they had found their lost warrior. The shuttle hit ground hard, shaking everything. The ramp crashed down fast and loud against stone and soil. Rick's squadmates fired bursts from the trees into the dark. Enemy lasers crossed the night sky. Humans fired back, outgunned but determined. Rick hauled Doctor to the shuttle. Doctor's armor weighed them down, the planet's gravity merciless. Rick dragged the wounded soldier, muscles burning with effort. The air screamed as a missile shot past. It struck a tree with a fiery blast, erupting it into ash. Inside the shuttle, boots clanked on metal. Rick shoved Doctor onto the deck. Hands reached down, pulled them in. The ramp sealed them inside as the shuttle jumped skyward. The squad worked to keep Doctor alive. They sealed his wounds, pressed bandages to the flowing green blood. Doctor faded in and out, fighting the darkness. Voices cut through Doctor's haze, human voices, sharp and clear, giving orders but with care, not cruelty. Doctor clung to the voices, anchors against the dark, not conquerors, but protectors. The shuttle climbed, escaping the planet, leaving behind fire and wreckage. It sailed into black space. They had defied orders and saved the enemy. Drive felt the deck tremble, a medic's hand on his head. Humans were not so easily defined. The engines cut out. Silence filled the tight shuttle cabin. Each ragged breath echoed. The choice to rescue the alien weighed on Rick. His squad shared a questioning look. Was one life worth their careers? The makeshift cot held Doctor. Green blood soaked the bandages. His breath came in gasps. His scales had lost their sheen. The medkit was running on empty. The nav screen blinked urgent red. A chilling message flashed: surrender, defector. Stand down or be destroyed. The Elri ultimatum meant death either way. Rick exhaled and keyed the call. Shuttle 3775 to Resolute. Medical emergency with PO aboard. Request immediate docking for treatment. Elge Fleet has us targeted. Rick's strained voice stayed steady. Static crackled before Admiral Winter's calm voice responded. Commander, your actions will be reviewed, but first, save that life. Permission granted. Bring your shuttle in. Relief flashed on the crew's faces, a silent, shared triumph. Through the windows, the Resolute's docking bay gaped open. The shuttle jolted, clamped into place. Medics flooded in, swooping around Doctor. They checked vitals and prepped for transfer, humans healing the wounded. LG's stark contrast. Rick's team moved aside as the medics worked urgently, equipment beeping and whirring. They watched Doctor whisked away to more qualified hands. The bay doors sealed shut behind Doctor and the medics, leaving the shuttle quiet. Court-martial loomed for Rick's squad. But standing aboard the Resolute, their expressions told a different story, one of resolve, knowing they had chosen saving a life over taking one. The air was still in Admiral Winter's office. It felt like the ship itself held its breath. Rick stood at attention, his boots stuck to the metal floor. He told her every detail from Epsilon 4, the smoke, the alien blood, the roars. His report stayed cold facts with no feelings. Winters listened, her eyes never left his. The ticking clock broke the silence between his words. Her face gave away nothing. After he finished, she eased up. Commander Howren, she said, voice sharp, you disobeyed orders, but the outcome shows something more than rules. She stopped, staring through him. Meanwhile, in the medical bay, lights glared on Doctor. His chest rose and fell steadily, monitors beeped to his heartbeat. Humans worked on him, nodding with satisfaction. They threaded through his alien body, putting him back together. He's stabilizing, a medic said, surprised and impressed. They exchanged disbelief. Their work paid off. Doctor's eyes opened, the world came into focus. He was in a white room, machines humming. Guards stood nearby, watchful but not threatening. His wrists were free. The humans kept their distance, gentle. Over days he wrestled internally. His people hated humans, trained to see them as less, but humans had saved him. It nagged him. He watched the medics work, focused, fighting for his life. One night, a guard brought food. We're not so different, he said, a simple statement that echoed in Doctor. In the office, Winters decided, your instincts were right. Sometimes the rules aren't enough. We'll review this, but I won't forget the life saved today. Outside, Rick's crew waited, tense. The door opened. Rick came out, face blank. Then he nodded once. A collective breath released. They walked the line between right and wrong and came out on the side of life. Drive heard their cheers. Once it would have brought hatred. Now it stirred something else. For the first time he saw them not as enemies but warriors, different yet worthy of respect. He considered what else had he been wrong about humans. Rick's boots slapped against the metal floor as he marched down the Resolute's halls. Some of the crew looked at him with respect, others with disgust. He walked into the briefing room and stood before his superiors. Their stern faces and stiff uniforms faced him in a line. Their words hammered him like bullets and shields. What you did at Epsilon 4 put careers and lives at risk. Commander Howren, you saved an enemy's life. That goes against protocol, a general said. Rick stood firm. Sir, I did it to save a life. The room buzzed with disapproval. His career, his life's work, now in danger, but he had already done it. A life was saved. He left the room, their chatter igniting behind him. Down the corridors, whispers followed him. In the mess hall, he heard bits of conversation. He pulled that alien out himself, one said. Risky move, could have cost us, another argued. But that took guts, a third said with admiration. Rick kept walking, staying firm in his choice. In her office, Admiral Winters waited. A big decision hung in the balance. She stared out into space, stars blinking back. War raged out there, but here, a chance for peace sparked. She called Doctor in. Doctor entered the heavy room. Metal shone on the Admiral's uniform, power radiated from her. Drive, my men spared you. This war drains us, Winters said. Talk to your leaders. Offer peace. Drive's chest tightened. Thoughts of treason, honor, and the humans who saved him warred inside. In the med bay, bandages wrapped Doctor's torso. Each breath hurt. Thoughts churned like a storm, betrayal or bridge builder. Rick came, the slap of his boots now familiar. We saved you because it's right. War's taken enough. Time to build, not break, Rick said, voice firm, eyes meeting Doctor's. They looked at each other, understanding dawning between them. Drive grunted deeply. What we did, it's more than war, more than orders, Rick agreed. Doctor rose, injuries protesting. I will speak for peace, he said. Their handshake sealed the deal. Human and Elge hands grasped in unity. Words spread fast across the resolute. Hushed talk grew bold of bravery and a new future. In space's silence, the resolute sailed on. Doctor stood before the humans. He spoke of bonds from battle, of lives given another chance. They nodded approval in the air. Rick watched, pride and fear twisting inside him. This moment could heal or cut deeper. Admiral Winters's voice broke through the murmurs. History is watching us now, she said. Choose the future you want to live in. Rick's crew stood behind him, a wall of support. Drive looked at them, these unexpected allies. His choice crystallized. Though treacherous, he stepped toward peace. One choice, one life, one chance at peace, a gamble. But with each heartbeat, Doctor and Rick knew it was the only way forward. Rick and Doctor leaned over a metal table covered in papers and data pads. The small room on the Resolute was their office. The ship's engines hummed constantly while they talked intensely. Documents in 2 languages could lead to future peace between their races. The 2 soldiers turned peacemakers worked through the night under screen lights. In the command center, Admiral Winters watched her tense team. She looked them over, noticing the doubtful expressions, but she never doubted Rick. Whispers of uncertainty moved through the ranks. She put her hands behind her back and spoke to her officers with quiet authority. We are about to make history, she said, staring at each of them. What we do here could end the war or fuel it. Trust Commander Howren. Doubts curled around the command center, but the Admiral's resolve cleared the air. Her crew straightened up as the whispers quieted. They prepared the ship for what could be the first step toward galactic peace. Urgent intelligence reports landed on Winters's desk. The proud Elg High Command now showed cracks after their losses. Reports said they might be ready to negotiate, a hopeful sign the war could end. Tension buzzed in the negotiation room between human and Elge delegates. But when Doctor entered, he cut through it. He wore both Elge and human medals. Him sitting by Rick showed unity was possible. The room quieted as Doctor took his seat. The talks dragged on for days, words built barriers and bridges. As interpreters handled cultural complexities, Rick and Doctor fiercely haggled over territory, trade, and technology. Their shared cause united them. In one exchange, a translation dispute stalemated talks. Doctor leaned in assertively, drawing looks. The term we need is partnership, not alliance. Alliance means wartime cooperation, partnership means peace too. Rick nodded at the key wording shift. The delegates noticed their nuanced care wasn't lost. The 2 former enemies became loudest for unity. A glance between Rick and Doctor spoke when words failed. Their teamwork was louder than the room's noise. As days passed, the peace proposal took shape through each painful compromise. In diplomacy's trenches, at last peace began to grow, nurtured by hands once holding weapons, but now extended in friendship. The negotiations ended as the ship shook violently. Alarms blared, red lights flashed an emergency warning. Rick's survival instincts took over. His heart pounded, ready for action, not fear. Doctor stood up fast, metals clinking. His face turned hard, a soldier ready for battle. They exchanged a look that said they would fight this new threat together. The sound of plasma blast tore open the ship's hull. The walls shook hard. A rogue faction attacked, rejecting peace. The room erupted into chaos. Delegates scrambled and cried in fear and shock, but Rick and Doctor stood firm together. Move, Rick shouted. He fired his gun at an extremist bursting through the door, plasma weapon blasting. Doctor fired too with his alien weapon, its loud, deep roar answering the enemy. The attackers advanced, blowing open walls. The ship groaned loudly from the violence. Smoke choked the halls, stinging eyes, but Rick and Doctor moved through it, using a strategy formed by experience and their shared goal to protect their hard-won peace. Left side, Rick called out, dropping an enemy about to ambush Doctor. High ground, Doctor grunted back, signaling a vantage point for their defense. They reached a junction, covering each other's blind spots. Rick tensed, finger on the trigger, shadows morphing into enemies. Doctor mirrored his moves in their desperate dance to defend their future. Rick's earpiece buzzed with squad voices checking in, coordinating a counterattack. He fought not just for himself but all aboard and the many lives at stake. Silence returned after the last extremist fell. Adrenaline faded, revealing the damage, physical and diplomatic. Rick surveyed the scarred, charred room that could have brought peace. He met Doctor's eyes again. The alien was smeared in soot, breathing heavy but steady. Together they had beaten back the assault. Their grit protected the seeds of peace they nourished. This struggle forged a true comradeship between them. The delegates re-emerged, shaken but alive. They saw Rick and Doctor's unity and courage with new respect. The attack had strengthened their shared purpose. As crews took over, Rick and Doctor stood together, battered but unbroken. Their bravery showed what their two once warring species could achieve united. There, amidst the aftermath, whispers of a peace that had weathered its first storm, whispers of hope that had survived the darkness. The future remained fragile but was in fierce hands, ready to fight for it. The smoke faded on the beat-up flagship. Dented walls and sparking controls showed the damage from battle. The noise died down, crew shuffled and murmured, fixing the wounded ship. Screens and lights buzzed from the fight. Drive and Rick stood tall in the chaos, still dirty from battle. Rick wiped his brow with his hand. Doctor stood next to him, ignoring his hurt arm for now. They stared at the screen with the High Command, dressed in uniforms but shaken. "We reject the extremists," the High Commander boomed. His words echoed, "Their violence does not represent our people. We support the ceasefire." The human crew nodded, some returning to work. In the peace chamber, they watched the treaty signing. Humans and Elg signed their names, writing mingling on the page. The air pulsed with importance. Each mark steered them from war. Drive and Rick stood together, uniforms now meaningless. They watched the nod between leaders, acknowledging the warrior heart in the other. The flagship prepared to go home, the crew moving from habit. Drive walked differently, a guest, not an enemy. He stopped at the window, staring at the stars, a silent contrast to battle. "I never thought I'd see the stars with a human in peace," Doctor said, voice rough but clear. "I never thought I'd fight with your kind for a cause bigger than us," Rick replied, hands behind his back. "Maybe it's time we look beyond our kind," Doctor said, not looking away. They nodded, their odd friendship showing changed minds. As the ship moved, Doctor watched the stars, symbols of new starts, promises shown there of a future guided by courage and care. In the quiet deck, the galaxy before them, Rick and Doctor stood at a turning point. Here, two people showed the spirit within anyone towards bravery and change. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. For every comment that says, we will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.